You're listening to Something Cheeky, a collection of podcasts where two sisters discuss TV, books, and movies with just enough irreverence and far too many pop culture references. Welcome to Something Cheeky, where we're discussing the TV series Vikings. I'm Nikki.
I'm Rosanna.
So if you don't watch our social media pages, this will be a shock to you. If you do, then you can be sad with us, but this is our last episode of Vikings. We have had some technical difficulties. We've lost some unreleased episodes, and because of the nature of our show, they are not re-recordable. And we've decided to focus on a new venture we're coming out with. Well, we've got a new show coming out called 6 Degrees of Wiki. That's actually pretty awesome. We're very excited about it. We'll talk more about it at the end of the show. But we are going to end our coverage of Vikings. This episode is going to cover the rest of Season 3. So we are doing 6 episodes in one shot. So if you haven't finished the season, stop listening right now and go watch the show, unless you want to be extremely spoiled for the rest of the season. In these episodes, Floki gets overconfident, Ragnar cheats death, Athelstan doesn't, and Rollo and Lagertha make some separate but equally questionable romantic choices.
Ain't that the truth?
Okay, Rosanna, what was your reaction to the rest of Season 3?
There were a lot of ups and downs in these 6 episodes.
Oh, yeah.
I was very sad to lose Athelstan.
Oh, so much.
And I knew that Ragnar couldn't possibly be actually dead, but they put him in a coffin. So I couldn't figure out how we were getting out of that. And I had varying opinions on even my favorite characters. I went back and forth with Lagertha.
Yeah.
But I think also there were a lot of really cool scenes. A lot of the invasion scenes I thought were pretty cinematic.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed seeing the way the strategies that they came up with played out in action.
All right, let's move straight into the action of episode 5. We're going to go episode by episode. We're not going to get as deep into our analysis as we usually do, because we have a lot to cover in this episode. We're going to hit each location or each major action and talk a little bit about it as we go. So episode 5 was called The Usurper. We got to go to Kattegat, where the Vikings returned. Torsten's baby mamas learned that he is dead, and the men find out that Siggy is dead, and Rollo blames himself. Floki tells Ragnar that Aslog slept with Harbard, and that Harbard is another name for Odin, so shouldn't Ragnar be happy? Should he be happy?
Oh, Floki.
He's not happy. Ragnar is not okay with this. Pretty sure he does not believe that Harbard was Odin. What did you think? Do you think that Harbard was Odin?
I kind of do.
Okay.
I don't usually agree with everything that Floki says because I think he's a little fanatical. But in this case, I'm kind of on board with him being a god.
So we've seen Raven Gandalf a couple of times. We've never seen his face. So maybe it's Harbard.
Maybe so.
With his weird cloak and raven stick.
And bloody hands. Never really explained that one either.
Yeah, there's a lot left unexplained in this show. So in Hedeby... Oh, Hedeby. Ragnar is a big fat jerk in this episode. The Usurper, from the title, is Kalf, or Baby Cow, as we so unaffectionately call him, because he does not deserve a real name, because he's a frickin' jerk. He has usurped Lagertha's earldom, and she, now that she knows, wants to take it back, and logically expects Ragnar to back her up, because she backed him up when he wanted to go back to Wessex. He would not have been able to go without her.
And Ragnar was completely and totally useless to Lagertha with Baby Cow.
Yes. Not only did he not help her, he recruited Baby Cow and his Lagertha's ships to go to Paris with them in the spring, where they're planning on raiding. I was not happy with Ragnar in this episode. And in Wessex, Aethelwulf finds out that Judith is pregnant with Athelstan's baby. And he is very mad, and I feel very bad for him in the first half of the episode. After that, not so much.
I feel like he definitely takes it out on the villagers, his anger.
Yeah.
Even though he was directed to do that by Ecbert, I think he enjoyed it because it was sort of a release of this rage.
Yeah, on children.
And we were just starting to like him.
He goes to the settlement, he wipes out the entire Viking settlement, and I liked the ending of the episode. It was kind of fun to watch, even if it was upsetting. He comes back to his dad to tell him what happened, and Ecbert just pretends to be very angry about everyone, has the nobles carted off to be arrested and probably executed, and says Aethelwulf's not gonna get away with this either. So everyone leaves, and then it turns out that this was the plan all along, and he and Aethelwulf had planned on doing this to get rid of the nobles and to get rid of the Vikings in one fell swoop.
It's kind of a good plan.
It is a good plan. Sucks for all the people that are not Ecbert's family.
Right.
I feel like this episode says so much about Aethelwulf, more than I think any other episode. It shows him in the beginning, finding out, being so upset that not only is Judith pregnant with someone else, but she had apparently told him that she couldn't have sex anymore. Mm-hmm. And he had been okay with that.
Right.
And I guess kind of supported her. And based on what happens later in this season with Kwenthrith, I'm pretty sure he has not slept with anyone else.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
It's such a big part of his character. We find out later. So he's gone, I don't know how long.
He's so devout, and he lives to serve, and I don't think that he would allow himself to commit adultery, whether he was mad at Judith or not.
He's the English Floki.
He is the English Floki. Because later we see that he totally accepts Alfred, Judith and Athelstan's baby. He gets this lame explanation from Ecbert that, well, since it was Athelstan, this baby must be what God wanted.
I never realized how much there is a parallel between these two characters, too, until now. It's not just their devoutness, but they are also both so desperate for approval of their father or father figure. Ragnar is so a father figure to Floki.
Definitely.
Even though they're like the same age, or Ragnar's younger, I don't know.
Yeah, I would say maybe a little bit younger, yeah.
But they are both jealous. They're both jealous of Athelstan and desperate. Do anything for Ragnar / Ecbert to like them. It's crazy.
It's sad, really. I mean, it's kind of pathetic.
It really is. And they just go to these lengths that they should not go to for their god and their father.
I think that Ragnar a little bit, but a lot, Ecbert, uses that to his advantage and just manipulates Aethelwulf into doing what he wants.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sad because it's so obvious. So I'm not quite sure exactly what he thinks. He has figured it out at the end of the season because he comes back, and we'll talk about this a little bit more when we get to that episode, but he comes back from Kwenthrith's castle where he thought he was going to die. Mm-hmm. And it was there that he seemed to realize that his father was willing to sacrifice him for Mercia.
Right.
And he outright asks Ecbert, which takes a lot of guts.
Yes.
To ask him that. And Ecbert says, of course not, you're my son. I think those were some crocodile tears in Ecbert's eyes. I do not believe him.
I don't either.
I want to. I really do.
Well, nobody wants to think that a father would be like that.
And, he has a good excuse. Of course, I want to be, the first Wessex ruler who has a son inherit. I feel like Ecbert is one of those people who, he understands logically that it would be nice to have someone inherit, but he's pretty sure he's going to live forever and get to do whatever he wants. He's going to conquer all of England, and it's going to be great.
He'll be the king for 500 years.
Yeah. Let's move to episode 6, called Born Again. In Kattegat, Thorn gives birth to baby Siggy, and is not happy about it, though Björn is over the moon, and it's very sweet. He has the same kind of love for fatherhood, I think, that Ragnar has. A farmer returns from Wessex after losing everything, and tells Ragnar about Aethelwulf's massacre, and is immediately killed by Ragnar. Well, maybe not immediately, but
pretty
yeah.
Much.
Because that reduces it to now only Floki and Ragnar being the people who know about the settlement being destroyed.
And I think, I don't want to say in Ragnar's defense, because this is not really fair, Because he did murder this man. But I do think it was hard for him
Yes.
to do that. He seemed really shaken up about it.
Yeah.
I'm sure he rationalized that he was doing this guy a favor because now this man can be with his family.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine that that's what Ragnar was thinking. And then also the added perk of nobody else knowing.
Yeah. I wonder if being murdered like that counts as battles. You get to go to Valhalla. I don't know.
I don't know either. I feel like I would really like to have a Vikings expert to ask these questions to.
In Wessex, 9 months has gone by very quickly, and Judith gives birth to a son. Is very quickly pulled from the birthing room
Horrible.
and sentenced. Yeah, there was a trial that she did not get to attend. Too bad. Isn't it nice being a woman in the Middle Ages?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So she's sentenced to having her ears and nose cut off for adultery. Ecbert, who probably knows exactly who the father is, he says that this punishment will stop if she admits who the father is. She won't do it until she loses an ear. One ear down, immediately she's screaming, Athelstan, Athelstan.
Same. I don't know if I would have even lasted as long as getting an ear cut off. Maybe half of my ear, and I would have said, all right, I'll tell you whatever you want, because that must have hurt so badly.
And he cut it off so slowly. He was like slowly sawing down the ear. I'm like, can't you just grab and chop? Just one good swipe, you know? King Ecbert declares that this child is sent from God. I don't know why. Athelstan used to be a holy man, no longer a holy man. He's a Viking now. Well, or no, until the end of the episode.
I'm just going to jump in right here and tell you how disappointed I was that Athelstan was the one that was born again, and that this episode was named that because of him. How dare you? You don't give me a prophecy about Lagertha being born again, and then have Athelstan walking around in his diaper saying he's the one that's born again. Excuse me, Athelstan, get in line. And we make it all the way through to the end of the season, and I still don't know about Lagertha being born again.
Yeah.
So that's annoying.
So, here's something I'm going to do a little bit differently this episode than I usually do. Because this is our last episode, I'm not going to give you, like, outright spoilers, but I'm going to tell you a couple things that I wouldn't have told you if we were continuing. Are you okay with that?
Because I'm going to go watch the entire 4th season, like, this weekend.
Immediately, yeah.
I'm calling in sick to work tomorrow.
So, disclaimer, I watched the 4th season. I mean, it was split into two parts, but I binged it. I didn't wait week to week. I waited till, like, it was out, and then I just watched it all. I watched it really fast. So there's some things that I definitely could have missed. I was going to say, I don't think that we see that prophecy yet, but I think we see part of the prophecy in the 4th season. We see part of it, but there's definitely at least half of the prophecy that we have heard that we have not, that I wouldn't consider us having seen.
Okay.
Maybe it could be argued, but I'm pretty sure it hasn't been. But there is one part, and I think you're gonna call me as soon as you see that scene and be like, yes!
Great!
You're gonna be very happy.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, Athelstan, he has this sign from God of light shining through a hole in his cabin hut thing. I don't even know what to call those houses. He goes blind, and then 30 seconds later he can see. It seems so shoehorned in.
Yes.
This whole sign thing that makes him be born again.
I didn't like his transition here at all. It did not feel true to his character. It did not feel true to his history.
Oh.
I just didn't believe it.
It was just too fast. If they had split it, even if they had, like, put a scene between him going blind and him being able to see again, but instead they, like, cut out and then cut right back.
Yeah.
And so it was like it was immediate, and so there was no sense of time passing where he experienced this miraculous blindness and this miraculous sight.
Right.
It was just right there, and it happened, and that was it.
And also, I guess, if he is Viking up until this point, why does he assume this is Jesus Christ and not Odin?
Excellent question.
I think it just was a matter of we need to get him off the show. This seems like the best way because somebody needs to murder him. We got to give somebody justifiable cause in their minds. It definitely felt rushed, and it definitely felt forced.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they were planning on him leaving then, or if they expected him to stick around. But after this, he got his own show. He's in Versailles. He's the main character of that show. And it's got a couple seasons out already. So he started right after. Maybe even around the same time. So I'm not sure if he left for that show or exactly what happened. I don't think there's any extra footage, but there's a little kind of collection of short videos. I think they're called, like, the Athelstan journals or something like that.
Oh.
And it's just stuff about him. I haven't seen all of them, but from what I've seen, it looks like they just cut scenes from shows and put them together with, like, weird extra music over the whole thing. It's strange.
Is this a fan thing or a History Channel thing?
I think it was done by the History Channel.
Well, that's odd.
It is odd. I don't quite know if they're trying to capitalize on a fan favorite or what, but it was strange. Well, Floki also gets a sign from the gods that blood must be spilt, and obviously that's Athelstan's blood.
Obviously.
Mm-hmm. And he sneaks into the village, sets up an alibi after threatening Helga, because he's an idiot. I don't know why all the men are jerks this episode.
And Helga is just so much too good for Floki.
Yes.
She's just a really good person.
She is.
And Floki totally messes up and spends a lot of later in the season trying to talk her into taking him back. And she's like, no.
So Floki kills Athelstan in a move that really no one's surprised about. I feel like we all knew it was going to happen eventually.
It seemed like neither could live while the other survived.
Oh my god. How is everything Harry Potter?
How isn't everything Harry Potter? I mean, it was going to come down to Floki killing Athelstan or Athelstan killing Floki in self-defense.
Yeah. Ragnar, as expected, is devastated.
Oh, it was so sad.
Yeah. Carries Athelstan's wrapped body up the mountain to where they had prayed together before, and talks to him, and buries him, and takes his cross. Mm-hmm. So, about that cross, he wears it for the rest of the season, and I'm not sure if the cross is what gave him the idea. I don't know at what point he got the idea to fulfill the prophecy of only the dead, not the living, can conquer Paris.
Yeah, I'm not sure at what point either. It was hard to tell because he was so sick.
Yeah, he was not faking that.
Yeah, you don't get his regular facial expressions that sometimes you can see sort of scheming, but he was just, he was so sick. It's hard to say when he came up with it.
I feel like he knew something because when he buried Athelstan, what was the line that he said?
Forgive me not for what I've done, but for what I'm about to do.
That's it.
I thought he just meant invade Paris, which, of course, will mean a lot of deaths, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, though, why he would need forgiveness for that, because he's never asked for forgiveness before, and he's killed lots of people.
Well, Athelstan seemed excited about...
Right, invading.
The Paris trip.
Yeah.
So
I'm not sure... I guess maybe he said that because he knew when Athelstan died that he had gone back to Christianity and that he might now view this as sinning? Maybe?
Maybe. So, that's the thing about when Ragnar got hurt. He was standing on top of that tower. He looked forward and just dropped backwards. Do you think he planned that and he had decided to try to do something that would make it look like he was hurt badly and hope to live through it and use that as a...
No, I didn't think that.
He was just very deliberate when he dropped back. It's not like he dived off to dive into the water. He just fell backwards. Not solved.
Oh.
He doesn't go back and explain all this. I'm glad we got to see Athelstan a couple more times, even though he was just in visions.
Yeah.
Throughout the season. I mean, it's weird. He was only in half of this season.
Yeah. I think it was nice for Ragnar to see him. I think that was a comfort to Ragnar.
Episode 7 is called just Paris. I wonder what it was about. It starts off in Francia, or France, and Ragnar with his fleet, and all the extra people, like Erlendur and Earl Siegfried.
Can I just talk about how Erlendur I am? Every time I look at him, I just want to punch him in the face.
He does have one of those punchable faces.
And why is he, 14?
He is really annoying.
And he doesn't even really talk. And he's still just awful.
I don't understand how he has any power at all.
He shouldn't.
He doesn't seem to have any men of his own. He travels with Kalf's men and Earl Siegfried's men, but I don't think any of them are his.
No, they're all Ragnar's. Ragnar is their king.
He's just the son of a dead king. I don't understand why he's got anything.
I don't know.
He doesn't even have his father's sword. He's got nothing.
Maybe some of these men were Horik's men and were loyal to him. So even though technically Ragnar is their king, they've sworn allegiance to Erlendur. Which, I don't know why they would do that. Because look at Ragnar, look at Erlendur. Come on. He's a baby.
Yes, he is. And he is just annoying. And he's an ass to Torvi.
Yes, he is. He's a real jerk.
No wonder she goes running to Bjorn.
Well, yeah, look at Bjorn.
God.
I'm just...
Look at Bjorn. He's getting pretty burly.
Yeah, I mean, he's just completely adorable, you know?
Yeah.
And not an ass.
Even when cheating on his wife.
Okay, well, that was pretty assy, but...
Pretty assy.
It's a word.
So eloquent.
Don't look it up. Just take my word for it.
Don't take my word for it.
Oh, reading Rainbow.
Always. Ragnar shocks everyone when he puts Floki in charge. No one is more shocked than Floki about this turn of events. Floki loves being in charge. He's very excited about it.
Well, and also, I think not just so much that he loves being in charge and he loves feeling like Ragnar trusts him, but also he feels like...
Teacher's pet.
Yeah, and also he feels like what he's doing is what they're supposed to be doing. He feels like this is their mission from the gods. They're doing the work of the gods, and so that gives him even more confidence in leading.
It was really fun to watch him at the table trying to get people to say what they wanted to do without actually volunteering anything himself at first. He ends the meeting with I'm going to build something magnificent. Doesn't say what it is. I don't know how long it takes him to come up with it. It is pretty impressive.
It is.
The fact that they got them to float so they could haul them behind the ships. I liked that they showed ships on the rafts, and the ships being moved to the floating rafts, but not actually making it from the edge of the cliff at one point to the raft below. I don't know how the hell they supposedly did that.
I also was slightly concerned about the logistics of this plan.
They cut away just before they were supposed to get it on the raft. And I was like, I don't think that's gonna work. You're not gonna drop it 20 feet and just make it work. So just down the river in Paris, oh my god, the French are all horrible.
They really are.
I don't know why. I can't decide if I hate Emperor Charles more or Count Odo more. I hate them both so much.
They're both terrible.
Odo is annoying. I can't even figure out why he's annoying exactly.
He just is.
The Emperor is just this simpering, weakling king. It's terrible. It's so bad. And he has to keep going and ask his daughter what he should do.
Or he just lets her tell him what to do. She's running things half the time.
Thank God, too, because... Oh my god. I mean, I'm not a fan of her either.
No, I didn't really like her either. I didn't really like anybody in France at all.
No. They should have had somebody that had some redeeming qualities.
I agree. And I feel like we're going to be seeing the princess more if she's, if she's going to marry Rollo. And I hope that she pulls an Athelstan and, like, just becomes a Viking. Because she's kind of tough. I mean, I think she'd be an okay Viking.
Yeah, she's pretty tough.
She just needs to embrace it.
Hell, she walked right into battle.
Yeah,
in one episode.
She did, yeah. Though her faith is pretty strong. It would be like having Floki renounce his faith, I think.
God, there's one in every country, isn't there?
Apparently. Huh. Crazy fanatics everywhere.
It's almost like they have some specific roles they have to fill. In every country, they're like, oh, we have to fill these 3 roles again.
Let's see. We're moving to a new country. Who's going to be the religious fanatic?
Let's move on to Wessex in this episode. When Aethelwulf goes to visit Kwenthrith and is threatened, but then threatens her instead. I don't think she really thought that one through. And also we find out she has a baby named Magnus that is supposedly Ragnar's baby. Do you think this is Ragnar's baby? Do you think she has any idea? She slept with a lot of people. I do not think she could pin it down.
That's true. How would she know? Unless the baby just, like, looked a lot like him, I guess. But even then, I mean, they're Vikings. They have similar features. I'm not sure what her goal is saying that this is Ragnar's baby. Because, I don't know how she could possibly know if that's true or not.
It's not like she was suddenly chased, like, the month before and after she slept with Ragnar. I don't think that she would be able to know.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Maybe we're just supposed to take her word for it.
Yeah. And maybe she said that to try to... because she didn't know about the settlement yet. Shoot. Maybe she planned on using that as some sort of leverage. Like, the Northmen will protect me because I have one of their babies. Maybe. But that doesn't work so well when there's no more settlement. Yeah, I'm not sure Ragnar would believe it was his baby either.
It could be Ecbert's baby for all we know. It could be Aethelwulf's brother. Right?
It could be. And I'm not slut-shaming. I'm just saying.
I'm not either. Whatever. Do whatever you want.
From exactly what we've seen.
You can't say that that's whose it is if you don't actually know.
On to episode 8 called To the Gates. It even has an exclamation point. Most of the episode is the battle. Mm-hmm. The Vikings attack Paris. Okay, so Lagertha, Kalf, and Erlendur are leading the attack on the city gate, while Floki and Ragnar and Bjorn and Rollo were trying to get past the walls. So, when I first saw the towers, I thought, this is a fantastic idea. It's a great way to get over the walls. I feel like they could have used these towers in a much smarter way, instead of going up one at a time on the ladder to get shot down one at a time. There was no way they could win that way. They had to overwhelm these guys, but the way they did it was terrible. I feel like I'm no general, but some of the stuff seemed pretty obvious. If they had gotten a good group up to that first landing and then just held up shields so the other guys could climb in behind them so they could, like, fill up that first landing, they could have had so many more people to overwhelm that final ladder. But if they had gotten 4 guys up there to hold up shields to protect the guys behind them, they would have been fine, and they would have been able to have 20 guys up on the final ladder.
Yeah, I was actually really surprised that they did so poorly at this first run.
Yeah, it was terrible.
I mean, based on what we've seen in the past and their fighting styles, this just seemed like they should have done better.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess they're new at this sort of, like, wall breaching, but still, that all seemed pretty obvious.
I just couldn't believe how many times I saw them run away. I mean, they've retreated several times. Which maybe that's how war is. I don't know. It seemed like Ragnar wouldn't mind the plan originally failing because he wanted Floki to feel terrible. But a lot of people died because of that.
There's also a theory I've seen about this battle in Ragnar's choices where Ragnar had been told by Athelstan that the city was impregnable. And that's why he chose Floki to be in charge, because he knew that until they figured out how to really get in, that... Well, even more complicated than that. He thought that he knew that the first battle they were going to lose.
Ah, I see.
And he didn't want it to be his fault.
Oh.
And he also was mad at Floki, so he managed to pass that blame off on Floki. That would actually make more sense if he had planned on getting in the coffin the whole time. if he wanted to use that first battle to get some sort of injury, even if it was worse than he planned, to pretend he was dead, because then he would need the first battle to fail. Otherwise, why would he need to go in?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot to his plan, a lot more than you would think just based on just watching it through. Because I thought he was going to die.
Yeah.
I mean, he had me going.
I think that he got more injured than he expected. That's my opinion. I don't think there's anything indicating that. That's just what
I thought that he got hurt, but then he got the sickness that all the French people had.
Oh, really? I didn't think about that.
I thought that he got injured, and that's why he was, like, throwing up blood and stuff, because he got that, he hit his back on the way down. But then he was in bed for so long, coughing and fever, and I thought, since they were talking about the plague in France, in Paris, that he caught it.
That makes so much more sense. I don't know why that never occurred to me. Wow, yeah. And, I mean, he made it over the wall, and he was fighting with people, so he got blood on him. So it certainly is easy to get sick in that sort of situation. That makes a lot more sense. All right. I agree.
Okay, good.
Yeah, because, I mean, he seemed to keep getting worse. Like, at first it seemed like a kidney problem because he was peeing blood.
That's what I was thinking.
I like it. Another reason that makes sense to me, because I did not understand what the plague thing was about. It was mentioned once, never talked about again. We never saw people getting sick. There was nothing about it. I could not understand why that was in there. But it makes sense if that's what was wrong with Ragnar.
I think we solved it.
Everybody listening is like, Nikki, that was so obvious. Why didn't you see that? I didn't notice either time. I've seen this episode twice and still passed right over my head.
It happens to me like 4 times an episode, so don't feel bad.
There was this whole side plot during the battle. It was so weird. Princess Gisela had to go find the Oriflame and, like, drag around this thing and get it anointed.
Oh my God, what even was that?
She couldn't just fly it and let people see it and be amazed. They didn't know what it was. She had to yell explaining during battle what this was and why it should be exciting and motivating for them. She could have put up her bed sheet and said that. Like, nobody cares. And why did the priest have to anoint it? It was already sacred, right? Like, it was soaked in the blood of a saint. And, like, 10 people could have heard her over the din of battle. Yeah. Everyone else just sees a woman yelling, flapping this thing around in the air, and then everyone cheers. Why were the Vikings just, like, stabbing people through the neck as they were staring at her? That would have been the perfect time to do it. And, of course, that scene ends with Gisela and Rollo locking eyes across the battlefield.
Okay, that was some real heavy-handed foreshadowing.
It was, yeah.
Not subtle.
They've done that like twice now with the two of them.
They're really pushing it. And it's like, guys, you don't have to do that. We get it. We can see where this is going. We know he's the bear.
Oh my God, when he walks in the later episode with his hair all done and the giant furs.
How adorable is he? With that goofy little smile when he's trying to speak French. Oh my gosh.
Salut.
That was
He's
funny.
So cute.
Yeah.
It's so cute. And so princely. He looks very regal.
He really did.
I think more regal than Ragnar has ever looked in the very classic European way.
I would totally agree with that.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Rollo when we get to the end of this episode. The real Rollo.
Oh, okay.
Because he was a real person. Okay, I have an idea. To prepare our listeners, in case they do not want any sort of spoilers for real history stuff, let's put that all at the end of the episode after predictions.
Okay.
So listeners, if you want to know that stuff, keep listening after predictions. If you don't, you can stop listening at that point. That way you won't miss any of their content. And Rosanna, you can learn about real characters.
Yay.
All right, let's keep going. After the battle, Floki, I don't know what you're doing, Floki. Standing underneath a burning tower. It sounds like he's espousing prophecies. He's just singing really weird shit.
Yeah.
Underneath the burning tower, and if this were real, he would not be able to breathe because there would be way too much smoke.
Oh, definitely.
But was it just me? It sounded like they were prophecies, right?
I don't know what he was saying.
He was saying it didn't sound like things he would have said on his own. I actually didn't write down any of it either, but it sounded very foreshadowy, and it sounded very prophetic. Not all of it, but there was like a 30-second window of him just like saying weird things that sounded like not visions, but you know when mystics in fiction have these kind of fits where they don't necessarily have their same voice, but they just are saying things given to them from the gods or whomever. It felt like that. We'll talk a little more about Floki later, too. So Ragnar is pretty badly injured. Bjorn is also really not in great shape. And everybody, runs over. Lagertha and Rollo are really worried about him. And Ragnar thinks they should treat him like a man, which is probably good, because he's probably 18 by now.
I thought that he was going to die, and I was getting real pissed.
Aww.
I was like, don't you kill him.
I will tell you more about Bjorn, the historical figure, also at the end of the episode. They really did use a lot of historical figures for this, which is nice. The next episode is 9, called Breaking Point, the penultimate episode of Season 3. We get a little short scene in Wessex, where Ecbert basically blackmails Judith into getting it on with him. It's pretty sketchy.
He's a real class act.
Isn't he? Yeah, with the whole, no matter what, like, even if you don't do it, I'll still protect you and your son, always, but there must be some sort of reward. It's your son's wife, dude. I mean, poor Aethelwulf. Not only has he lost his wife to his mortal enemy, Athelstan, now he's losing her to his dad, too.
Also,
not cool.
You can't tell me that Ecbert couldn't find someone else willing to be his mistress.
Here's my thought about this, and it's gross, but I feel like it's the truth. I think that Ecbert was so in love with Athelstan that he wants to sleep with someone who slept with Athelstan because he can't sleep with Athelstan.
I don't think that's totally wrong.
Just partially.
I mean, it's disturbing, but...
I'm no psychologist, but here's my weird theory. So we get to Kattegat. We have a few short scenes where there's a Christian missionary.
Weird.
I do not understand why this is here.
Even while I was watching it, I was like, what is this?
Yeah. What is the end game for this? What's the
I don't
point?
care about this. Go back to what I care about. This is not interesting.
I still don't understand the point. I mean, I've seen the 4th season too, and that sheds no light on this.
I can only guess that it's trying to say something about Aslog. Because the only real reactions we get are from her. So it has to be focusing on her.
Originally, I had a theory that it was just her asserting her power over Christians when Ragnar wasn't home. But while she kind of did that with the whole hot iron or hot bar thing that she made him carry, I think that was more about the gods. I think that if she had really wanted to assert her power, she would have made killing him a spectacle and not just given it as a kind of a side order.
Well, and she got to the point where it's like she didn't even care. She's like, just kill him, whatever. I don't care. I'm over it.
Yeah. If it were about power, she would have said, yes, let's kill him and let's make it a big show in the courtyard and all this stuff. But that's not what happened. It was just a toy she was done playing with. In Paris, the Vikings are still kind of recovering from battle, but Lagertha leads her shield maidens on this super stealthy surprise attack.
Loved this.
Yeah, her sneaking through the shadows.
Of course, it's her and her shield maidens coming to the rescue.
Mm-hmm. This is basically my character whenever I play Skyrim. I'm always the, stealthy assassin character. So they get a bunch of the Vikings in the hallway of the bridge. And then we get the horrible wheel of death.
Oh my
this thing
God.
is so bad.
Who comes up with this stuff, honestly?
It was like a roll of thread with spikes on it.
It was really bad.
It was pretty bad. Though, made me love Rollo watching this. Him just, I'm gonna stop this thing and not let them get it back. So he just shoved those, he's so strong, just those big old...
like a bear.
Arrow things to stop it. Yeah, basically. So they couldn't get it back.
And he's just like, I want to keep fighting. This is in my way. I'm going to take care of it.
Uh-huh. So impressive. I love that everybody noticed him. Gisela noticed him in the other battle. He got noticed by Odo in this battle. Everyone's seeing this guy and pretty scared of him. So if he marries Gisela, do you think that he's going to have a pretty serious reputation of his fighting? Because I'm sure all the soldiers have seen him.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think that people definitely won't want to cross him. They'll be scared of him, the French people.
That actually seems like a pretty good match. Her brains and his brawn. It's Fezzik and Vincini. Princess Bride is always relevant.
Always.
Just like Harry Potter.
Agreed. Always.
Oh, and baby cow saves Lagertha. I'm pretty sure the only reason that worked is because he was taller than her, and so he could see what was coming and she couldn't.
Yeah.
As the thing was coming down, he could see, and she was just too short to see it. I was a little surprised at that the first time I saw it.
Well, he's got the hots for her, and I am not here for that. I'm not. I want them to knock it off.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Back at camp, Ragnar's wounds won't heal. Or he's got the plague. I don't know.
Maybe his wounds won't heal because he's got the plague.
Maybe. But he's pretty out of it. He's having visions. He sees Athelstan. He sees Raven Gandalf, who appears like he did in the pilot, with the weird cloak and the big giant hat. It's just like straight out of Dresden Files book covers. Okay, quick aside about that. Have you seen the paperbacks for Dresden Files? Or have you...
Yeah, I have the first one.
You know how he's wearing like the big hat in that cover? He has a stupid hat in basically every single cover of 15 books. That is the one thing that Jim Butcher, the writer of the Dresden Files series, insisted upon, was that he not be wearing a hat, because he doesn't wear a hat in the books. He's like very particular about not wearing a hat.
Uh-huh.
And they still put a hat on him in every single book cover.
Why?
And it's terrible. I don't know.
That's so weird.
It makes him look stupid. It makes it look so dated. The covers look so old. It really makes them look like they're from the mid-80s.
I agree.
With those stupid hats. And they're not. It's a modern series.
Yeah, they're not doing themselves any favors. Book sales-wise, doing that.
Not at all. Back to Ragnar. He's trying to, I guess, get his leadership back. He sneaks out and meets the Franks early in the morning, thinking no one's going to see him, and gets baptized. And of course, the Vikings come rolling in and see him right as it's happening.
And they're horrified.
He's like, oh, shit. Yes. Floki is, like, visibly shaking.
Even Lagertha.
And Lagertha is just like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, pissed.
I mean, it really affected her.
They're not okay with it.
And she liked Athelstan. And it still was just a shock to her.
Mm-hmm. Well, and like, who was it that said it? Was it Kalf or Erlendur or someone? Maybe it's even Floki, but somebody said that the Vikings would never accept a Christian king or a Christian ruler, which I think is true.
I think that's true.
Well,
definitely.
Until later.
Well, yeah.
In history, when they did, and then they all got converted, and that's why there are no Vikings anymore.
That's too bad.
Christianity killed the Vikings, just like video killed the radio star. Obviously, the baptism is a ploy so he can get into the city gates later in the next episode. Do you think he also really was being honest, though, about wanting to see Athelstan again in heaven?
I do. I do think so.
Yeah.
I think he loved Athelstan as much as he loved his kids.
Yeah, I agree. On to the season finale, episode 10, called The Dead. Also, pretty clear.
Literal.
Mm-hmm. We have this weird scene in Paris with Count Odo, where we find out he's a sadist and not shy about it.
Right.
He takes that woman to his dungeon at the first sign of interest. Like, how many women has he dragged down there? Like, oh, you're slightly interested in me? Let me show you my dungeon.
My red room of pain, like from 50 Shades of Grey. That's what I thought of.
Oh my god. Yeah. Is that what it's called? A red room of pain?
I'm pretty sure that's what she calls it. He doesn't call it that. She calls it that.
That is a really uninspired name.
Well, she's not the sharpest tool in the shed.
That's true. And by she, you mean the author.
It's not a good book. It's really not.
Well, Ragnar gets a funeral of sorts. He dies, and that's me doing air quotes, very hard air quotes.
He lays there while everybody talks to him as if he's dead.
Oh my god, you know that was like his favorite thing ever. He is such a gossip fiend.
Oh my gosh.
He loved it.
And I thought it was so crazy what Rollo said about how they were going to die eventually, and he was just surprised that Ragnar went first.
Yeah.
He seemed sad, but maybe not sad enough.
Oh my god, and Floki was ridiculous.
Oh.
Give my regards to Athelstan, by the way. Like a snotty tween.
Yeah.
Just so bad about it. Lagertha was great, though. She's like, you're not supposed to die, you freak. Just,
God, you idiot.
Yep.
That's why I couldn't figure out what was going on, because I knew he couldn't actually die, because I know he's in season 4. So I know he's not really dead, but I assumed that if he was, pulling a con, that these were the people that would know. So it didn't make any sense to me that they didn't know.
Well, he said, I think just before that, to Bjorn, you're the only one I can really trust.
But still, that still went past me.
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe that he would let Lagertha think he was dead.
I know. I want to think that's hard to believe, but he has been such an ass to her. As you said, he's been assy to her.
Yes, he has.
For a long time now.
Yeah.
For so long.
I
feel like I shouldn't be surprised at that.
That's fair.
And he's angry at Floki, so, In Rollo, I don't think he is quite trusted again.
And I guess we'll see why, because Rollo, what are you doing? You big dumb animal.
Rollo. So they have this whole funeral procession, which is pretty awesome. Yeah. With all the singing and the drumming and all that. I loved it, and the dancing. I always wish I could see some behind the scenes stuff. I don't think we'd see of the extras learning these songs.
Yeah.
In the language. That'd be a really weird music class. I'm sorry, I can't read this. Can you tell me how to pronounce this word?
That would be hard.
Yeah. So they get the beautiful coffin inside the cathedral, and it does not take long for Ragnar to leap out of the casket with the convenient swords that are in there with him that he can hand to the other guys there. I was thinking the whole time they were coming in with the pallbearers that I wondered if Bjorn chose the pallbearers in particular, because they were all pretty good fighters.
I think maybe he picked them partially for that, but also partially because they had to have been trustworthy, because they knew Ragnar was coming out.
Yeah, they were ready they knew exactly where the swords were. I like to imagine that there was a fight about the pallbearers with Bjorn and everybody else. Like them not wanting to send fighting men because they might get killed by the French, and him trying to insist without explaining why they needed to be fighting men.
And also people saying, no, let me be a pallbearer. Ragnar meant more to me.
Yeah, it does seem weird that Rollo wasn't.
Exactly.
But maybe the pallbearer thing isn't important in Norse religion like it is. And I think Christian religion, maybe it's not Christian religion that does that, it's just kind of the whole mass thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where that tradition came from, so I'm not sure who would care.
I don't know how long that's been a deal, but it always seems like it's important who the pallbearers are.
Right, it is.
I'm going to be cremated, so I don't need pallbearers.
Same.
Mm-hmm.
Same as in, I'm going to cremate you. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, thanks.
I'm just kidding.
Wait till I'm dead.
No, I would like to be cremated also.
I always imagined for whatever people are left after me, that is the perfect excuse to go on some really awesome trips. Like scatter me at the White Cliffs of Dover, scatter me in Galapagos, go to New Zealand.
I want to be scattered over the ocean because when my children and grandchildren come to visit the place where I've been laid to rest, I want it to be a beautiful place. I don't want it to be a graveyard.
Exactly. That's how I feel.
I don't want them to have to come visit me with a bunch of other dead, rotting bodies too.
Yeah.
So, go to the coast, enjoy yourself, eat some fudge for me.
Ragnar takes Princess Gisela as a hostage and makes the guards open the gates. Honestly, I was a little surprised this worked. She has been so insistent upon doing her duty for Paris, and she would die for Paris, she would kill herself for Paris, and she just lets herself be taken. I feel like if she were serious about all that, she would have tried to run away so he would kill her and then he couldn't have her as a hostage. And then they would kill Ragnar. I don't think that she would just go along with him.
Yeah, she was all talk until there was a knife in her neck.
All her bluster was gone. Also the part where she gave all the nuns knives and said, don't be taken alive. So suicide is the worst sin, right? Supposedly?
Right, yes.
Why would she tell them to do that? And why would they do that? They're nuns. All they want to do is go to heaven. Like, come on. She's kind of inconsistent.
Kinda.
Just like Rollo, aren't they perfect for each other?
Actually, yes. They probably are.
Speaking of Rollo, God, most of the Vikings go home. Rollo volunteers to stay behind. Why do you think he volunteers? Is he just like, I can't handle Ragnar anymore?
I think it's because he's been told that he has a great destiny, and he thinks it's not in Kattegat, because he's already been there this whole time, and nothing great's happened.
They gave him another one of those scenes where he stares off at Paris. Like, in another episode, he just stared at the ocean longingly.
Yeah.
I wish that Michael Hurst would give us more credit as an audience. I feel like we're more intelligent than that. People who watch the show are probably more intelligent. They don't need it spelled out twice. Like, once was bad enough. The same thing with Rollo and Gisela. Twice they did this. Maybe even 3 times.
Yeah, we get it.
They're supposed to be together. I get it. He's supposed to go to Paris. I get it. Come on. Michael Hurst is mansplaining Vikings to me. It's ridiculous.
Oh my god.
Totally is.
It totally is.
I wish there were a non-gendered term for that, but that is exactly what it is.
Yeah, it is.
Ugh. So the Emperor is going to offer not just lands and titles, but his daughter's hand in marriage. She is pissed. The first time her father has ever stood up for himself is when...
he's giving her away.
Yeah. And then Rollo goes to court, and it is fantastic. It's maybe my favorite scene this entire season. It's lovely. And she's just going off about what, like a cocksucker he is, basically, without saying it. And he watches her and seems to love it. He's like, I need me a fiery woman. This is great. That's his kind of woman. And then the season ends with, I guess it's kind of a cliffhanger, but it doesn't really feel that way, of them all sailing home, and Ragnar tells Floki he knows Floki killed Athelstan. And Floki's like,
duh.
Shocked? Why are you shocked, dude? It's so
Why
obvious.
are you surprised?
So we're going to do top 3. Now, as is tradition, I usually have a top 3 at the end of each season. And I do this time, but Rosanna is also going to do her top 3. So Rosanna, why don't you go first for your top 3?
My top 3 for season 3 were decisions with lasting consequences that I'm pretty sure are going to come up in season 4.
That is the longest top 3 category name you've had so far. Congratulations.
I felt like I needed to be specific.
So what are they?
So the first one is that Lagertha pretty much just gave up on Hedeby, and she's totally flirting with Baby Cow.
To be fair, she also told him that she's going to kill him. And as long as he accepts that, then they can totally sleep together.
That's true, she did say that. But I don't like that she's flirting with him. I think if you want to kill somebody, you should not be nice to them.
Well, he's pretty hot, so...
He's not hot, Nikki. No, he's not. He's Baby Cow.
With that mane of hair they gave him, I mean, those extensions are serious.
Oh, I mean, he does look better at the end of this season than he has before, but he's still Baby Cow, so I don't want Queen Lagertha flirting with him. It's beneath her.
Okay.
Number 2, Ecbert destroying the village in Wessex. What the hell, dude?
That was bad.
Yeah, Ragnar, I think in the next season is probably gonna do something about that.
At the end of this segment, I'm going to give you some historical knowledge about that.
Oh, okay, cool. Alright, so number 3, I'm sure anyone can guess, Floki killing Athelstan.
Floki, why?
So, obviously very sad, because we love our Athelstan. And then also, the whole, it's a cliffhanger. Ragnar confronts Floki. Okay, well, obviously everybody knows it was Floki. But I think that since they sort of tried to make that look like a cliffhanger, it's definitely going to come up pretty early in the next season.
Okay.
So, I think that those are our 3 developments that are going to have significant parts in the next season.
All right. So, speaking of next season, what are your predictions? How do you think it's going to go down, all this stuff?
I think that Rollo's going to marry the French princess. What irritated me about that is that the emperor said, "You can marry my daughter if you stand with me against your brother."
Yes.
So, Rollo already knows that that does not work very well for him, standing against Ragnar with anybody else. Why doesn't he just agree to marry the princess and then still work with Ragnar to throw down the rest of the city? What would make him keep his word?
Excellent question.
I mean, does he really need the approval of his chicken shit father-in-law? Probably not.
God, that guy. What was with the mask he kept wearing through the whole season? What was that?
Why was everybody back then such a bunch of drama queens? Seriously. So much
They
drama.
were pretty bad. Alright, so, predictions about Lagertha. She said she's going to kill Kalf. Do you think we'll see that soon? Not soon?
I would like to see that by the end of the 4th season, yes.
How long do you think she's going to survive?
What? Forever, obviously.
She will never die.
I don't think she's going to die in season 4. I don't think she'll die before the end of the show. I think she'll live the whole time.
Let's do my top 3, and then we'll talk about the historical figures that mostly inspired some of these characters. A lot of them are a mix of other people, or they gave some storylines to different historical figures, things like that. Or things that they just completely changed. So first, my top 3 moments of willing suspension of disbelief for season 3.
That's a great top 3.
Thank you. Number 1, I'm going to believe that it's not just bad writing or bad casting, but that the 8th century French nobility were all really incredibly annoying people. That's just true.
I'm sure they're not now, but in that specific time period of, say, 50 years, they were the worst.
I will say this, we meet some additional French people in the next season, also incredibly annoying people. I don't understand.
God, seriously? They couldn't give him one good one?
Not even one. There are 0 French characters that I care to ever see again. We get to see Gisela a lot more next season. Hate her. She just gets more annoying.
Ah, that's not fun to look forward to.
Odo, even creepier, somehow.
I don't ever need to see him again either.
I just wanted to fast forward through most of the French stuff in season 4. Speaking of, this is not one of my top 3. I'm going to give you a very sad spoiler for season 4.
Okay.
Rollo gets the worst haircut I have ever seen.
No.
It is so bad. Oh, it's so bad.
Why?
He chops off his hair into this shoulder-length cut, and he looks ridiculous. Number 2, I am going to believe that it's not that everyone has terrible wigs. It's just that the Saxons and the French just had really bad hair.
Maybe they just didn't have access to appropriate hair products.
All the Vikings have wonderful hair.
Maybe it's because they wash their hair in the sea.
Maybe.
They just always have great beach waves.
Ecbert and Aethelwulf and Judith have nice hair, but like the
That's
rest
true.
of the English people, the French people have weird hair. Odo's hairpiece
bad.
is very unpleasant. It's as bad as those weird nobles that got executed in England. It's just as bad. Maybe it's the same wig. Maybe they just gave it.
Maybe
They
they
didn't
pass
need it
it
on those
around.
guys anymore. Yep. See if anyone notices. And Cynric's wig is also very bad. I feel like it's so bad that it's supposed to be fake. Like it's supposed to look like it's fake.
I very much hope it's intentional. That it's supposed to
hope
look
so.
fake because
It's so bad. It's really, these wigs are terrible. The last top 3 moment of willing suspension of disbelief is that Rollo fights every battle shirtless, but never gets a single cut or injury of any kind on his torso.
Okay, I totally thought that too when he was running across the bridge.
No injuries on his chest. There was nobody else shirtless in the entire scene. He is the only person not wearing a shirt.
Yeah, I thought that exact same thing. I was like, why isn't he wearing any protection whatsoever?
And we've thought that before in the battle when he was supporting Jarl Borg. He was also shirtless there.
It's not very realistic.
No.
Because even if he feels like real good about his body, he is just feeling himself, he still, I think, would like to keep it in one piece.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about some of the historical figures. Not going to talk about many of them, but some. Okay, Ragnar, and this is all from memory, from what I've read from Wikipedia and various sources. Ragnar was the father of many sons. I don't think they ever mentioned a daughter, but she is an invention. But he did famously have, for what they believe about him if he was a real single person, he did have many famous sons. Basically all of his sons were famous for incredibly varied things, too. I believe, and I don't know if this is borne out in the show or not, that one of his sons becomes a king of a lot. I'm not sure what. I don't know if it's... I don't think it's the king of all of Norway, but it's of something big. Would you like to know the name, well, part of the name, of the first king of Norway?
Yes.
I can't remember his first name, but it's Fairhair. Do you remember back in one of the first 2 or 3 episodes of this podcast, I happened to mention first king somewhere, or one of the kings, and fair hair, and it was this big deal about his hair, and it was so pretty and all this stuff, and made me think of a thing called Drogo at one point.
Okay. I don't remember.
He is the man that comes to Kattegat and had been in love with Aslog, but she spurned him. And he said he would become king to get her. We actually get to see him again next season, and you'll see a lot more of him. So there's not much known about Lagertha. I have told you previously, I believe, the real Lagertha had she'd been captured along with a bunch of other women and put in, they weren't slaves, but I think kind of like a harem.
Oh.
But she was an amazing warrior. I feel like Ragnar came to save her, but she got out herself or something at the same time.
That sounds right.
It's been a long time since I've read her story. It does sound right, doesn't it? But she was one of his wives. He actually had 3 wives total. And she bore him Björn, but not the others. Aslog was the mother of his other sons.
Ah.
Yeah. Who else?
Björn.
All right. Okay, so I can tell you the name of the sea with no waves in his prophecy.
Okay.
It is the Mediterranean.
Does the Mediterranean Sea not have waves?
It has pretty minimal waves because of its position, because it's kind of blocked in.
So not really no waves as much as relatively not many waves. Is that artistic license by the seer, or is he just trying to screw with us?
Oh, yeah.
So the Mediterranean, huh?
He is incredibly famous. He kills a lot of Muslims. A lot.
Oh.
Yeah. He goes to the Mediterranean, and I think he goes to, Middle Eastern countries, and Greece, definitely. Wins a lot of battles, loses some battles.
Does he go as a Viking to raid? Is that what he's doing?
Yeah. Yeah, I think he becomes a ruler in his own right as well, if I remember correctly. I don't remember exactly where. Basically, Ragnar's sons all pretty much ended ruling things. They did very well for themselves. All right, so I'm going to tell you another piece of history. I have mentioned very slightly before and very purposefully did not tell you much about it. Before I say it, I will say that the show does not represent it the same way that it is written down in history.
Okay.
So historically, there was this thing called the Great Heathen Army, led by Ivar the Boneless.
Ah.
Yes. In the history books, it is Ragnar's sons avenging his death.
Oh.
They all go to England with the biggest army ever. They unite all these different places, and they all go and raid, and they just destroy big parts of England. They kill King Aela, too.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's all pretty ugly.
Is King Ecbert a real figure?
Yes. Yes. I think he's represented pretty closely in the show. Yeah. I'm not going to tell you which parts of the Great Heathen Army thing are represented accurately in the show, and which are not. Some are, some aren't. Some of them are spoilers, but it's pretty interesting. Some of that, I will say, they switched some of the things, some of the people. They gave some stories to other people. You have, like, the same cast of characters, but the wrong things happen to the wrong people. Some people do things that other people actually did. Is there anybody else? Oh, Rollo. I think Rollo might be the most famous of them all.
What? No way.
He is the first Duke of Normandy, the very first. It's a whole people in the Middle Ages. Yeah, he was the very first of the Normans.
How do you start your own group of people?
I know, it's crazy, right?
How does that even happen?
He has the biggest historical footprint of any of them. I will say there is some really interesting stuff in season 4 with Rollo and Bjorn. I love the two of them whenever they have scenes together. Every time. They always have good stuff together.
I don't want them to fight on opposite sides. I really don't.
Yeah. I will also tell you this about season 4. There is a time jump. I think there are even 2 time jumps of significant periods of time.
Really?
Yeah. That's the thing. We get to see the boys grown up.
Oh, grown up?
Here's the thing about the whole grown up thing.
You mean like 17?
I think that maybe they're supposed to be like 15-ish, 16. They're several years apart.
Right.
Basically, in Viking culture, that's an adult.
That's cool. I'm excited about that.
Yeah. There's a lot of fan controversy because there's a lot of focus on the sons in the next season.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of people didn't like that, the distance with Ragnar, because he's still there a ton, but it's not just about him now. Also, Lagertha in season 4, you thought she was a badass before. She is uber badass in season 4.
Oh, I love Lagertha.
I love her so much. I am so tired of going on Reddit and seeing people like, Lagertha gets too much screen time. Shouldn't she be dead by now? She's like supposed to be 60 and all this crap, and I'm like, I love it. I love it.
Wow.
You're shocked.
I am.
Let's see, is there anybody else? It's interesting to see the sons. I'm gonna warn you now. They start out pretty annoying, but they eventually, most of them grow on you. One of them never grew on me, but the other ones did. My top 2 people of season 4, Lagertha and Bjorn, all the way.
Awesome.
Love it.
They're definitely
both great.
In my top favorite characters. Yeah. They're great.
They are both fantastic in season 4. I love them. Aslog, still frustrating.
I think that's just her character.
Yeah, I think so too.
She's just like that. She doesn't really fit in there.
No.
Really. I mean, it doesn't seem like it doesn't matter how long she's lived there. She just doesn't quite fit in.
I'm going to give you 2 more very small spoilers. So Floki, this isn't actually a spoiler, but it's a fan theory I told you about before, and I said we'd cover when we got there, but since we're not getting there, I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
And you predicted this. There is a fan theory that has not been borne out yet, though there have been heavy hints in season 4 that Floki will be the next seer.
Oh, I totally think that, yeah.
You'll see some things in season 4 and you're like, oh, yes.
Ooh, that's fun. I was right about one thing!
Here's the other thing you were right about. You said long ago, back in season 1, that you hoped eventually Lagertha became her own Amazon leader, kind of all the women, and just had this troop of badass women. Season 4.
Yay!
Does it.
She kind of had that going on the Paris attack, because they were all women.
She like quadruples down, more than doubles down, more than triples down. It's fantastic.
Yes, queen!
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So excited about that.
So I know it sounds like I've given you a lot of spoilers, but there are like 8 I can think of that are serious major ones I haven't even said.
Okay.
So there's still a lot in surprise land for you in the next season.
I can't wait to watch it. I'm really excited.
So listeners, before we close down this last Vikings episode, I wanted to give you a little idea of what our brand new show is going to be about. It's going to premiere in November 2017, and it is called 6 Degrees of Wiki. In this new podcast, we are going to use the 6 degrees of separation idea and find out how seemingly unrelated articles on Wikipedia are connected by those 6 degrees. There are going to be lots of fun predictions in between all the 6 rounds that we have, trying to figure it out. It's going to be the same kind of thing where one of the sisters leads the episode and the other one has to do all the guessing. We are going to switch off every month. It's going to be very exciting. Yeah, you should definitely subscribe right now. Just go on your favorite podcatcher and look for 6 Degrees of Wiki.
That's our episode. Thank you so much for joining us in our coverage of Vikings. Keep up with us on Twitter at SomeCheek, Facebook.com/SomeCheek, and Instagram at Something Cheeky Podcast. You can also send us questions and feedback through our website, somethingcheekypodcast.com.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider leaving a review on iTunes. We want to thank you so much for listening with us and following along with all the seasons of Vikings. Thanks for listening to Something Cheeky.
Digga da dum, digga da 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 dum.